So with that, we can move into the next question and answer session. So let me take a few questions that are already directed at our speakers. So these questions are for Dr. Nuwan. So the first question to Dr. Nuwan is how to find the relevant engineering standards for the design, and are there any local engineering standards for medical devices in addition to international standards?
For some years, SLSI has adopted most of IEC 6061, that is electromedical device standards, to Sri Lanka as well. So if you approach SLSI, you can get the standards at a reduced cost as a manufacturer. Otherwise, you have to find some specifications when they call for tenders and try to maintain those specifications. And they are sometimes they include the required standard as well.
Thank you. Next question is, when someone gets the approval for a new technology, will that product become a generic one? And can a competitor take the advantage?
Approval is only for that particular device and that model, not even a different model of the same manufacturer. It's approval given for a particular model only. It will become established technology after a few years of use. It will be after maybe 10, 20 years of use. I'm not sure about Sri Lanka, they don't specify it, but in FDA, US FDA, it is 20 years of existing technology. So it's a fairly long time. If not, if it is a new technology, if similar products come in, the first one already approved, but the second one has to go through the same process.
Okay, another question. What are the challenges faced by small and medium-sized entities in medical device registration?
There's no special challenge in terms of registration, but this one thing is that even if it is small or medium size, there should be a proper GMP, or the proper good practices followed, including standardization of the bill of materials and everything. So that is not usually done in this small or medium scale enterprises, but without that, taking a registration may be difficult. But other than that, I don't see any specific hurdle for medium and small scale manufacturers than any. It doesn't affect the regulation process.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nuwan. So the next few questions are directed at Mr. Indikadula. So the first question for you is, does this bed have a patient weight measuring mechanism?
Patient weight mechanism?
Yes, weight measuring mechanism.
Not really, Dr. Dani, because you can do that with some load sensors, but as per the the scope that the CeBI and the doctors, medical doctors asked, they didn't ask for a weight, but we can, with some load sensors installed, we can take the weight as well. That's not technically no barrier on that. We can do that.
Okay, thank you. Another question, do you think that there is potential and willingness in local medical device importing companies to endorse Sri Lankan design and manufacturing companies as distributors, sales representatives, service engineers for the locally manufactured medical devices?
Yes, that's a good question. As manufacturers, as we can do two ways. Like any manufacturer like to do a B2B and B2C, whereas not actually we are B2B, but we can do the OEM, original equipment manufacturing, on someone else's brand. That's done by worldwide. That's the manufacturing practice. Whereas you do in your own brand, and you can do OEM for some other brands as well. Even if it is successful, even we are ready to give that with the collaboration of CeBI and Dr. Puji and the team. We are open for that. We can give a OEM manufacturing for some other brand as well. In the end of the day, then we can save a lot of foreign exchange rather than they importing something from overseas. We can manufacture here with their own brand, so they are secured with their market share as well. Yes.
Okay, another question is for you to elaborate more on the challenges in the processes that you have followed.
Yes, the challenge always, the production is always challenging. The trading is easy business, because in our companies, we are trading companies as well as the manufacturing companies. The production is always challenging, but you get more satisfaction with the production rather than trading. So I think from my point of view as an engineer and innovator, I always prefer to go for a design, innovation and manufacturing. That's my passion and the interest. So I think it's good for every. I think every Sri Lankan has to be thinking that way, where we have to do manufacturing things. Like we have a lot of world-class companies. We can do the same thing from other companies as well. Why not?
Okay, another question, what would be your advice for any other small and medium-sized organizations in essential medical equipment required for the country?
Yes, if you are going for a, I think we have to think about a different way that today's people are thinking. So we have to do designs, innovations and manufacturing. Start from a small thing. If you see the items that import to this country, even we has to be shameful sometimes, right? Those things that we can do very much better than what the imported items. So even my thing is like, if one in the world can do, why can't Sri Lankans can't do? Because at the moment, our products are export from to Australia, the Europe and US and Australia, sorry, Canada and different countries. So not only the engineering products, actually these are mainly the electrical engineering products as well as the data centers and IT products. So we are competing with the giants, because I don't want to mention the name. Even in Sri Lanka, we have done 2 data centers competing with giants, and we got the deal, and we are done a lot of worldwide. So as Sri Lankans, we have a fantastic people here. We have good design engineers. Our human resources are very good. We have world-class engineers. The sad thing is most people doesn't think in an entrepreneurial way. As engineers, we can easily do that. I think we have to think differently, come out of box, and we can do many things in this country. I think that's the message I have to give to the newcomers, to the startups in this country. Come out, do something, and we can do anyone who doing the worldwide. We can do, no problem on that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mr. Kadula. So the next questions are directed at Dr. Pujit and Mr. Shalika. So the first question is the financial investment done by a manufacturing partner, or can anyone identify a third partner such as an investor?
Is this specific to this product?
It is not mentioned as it is, so maybe in generic context.
So yeah, so the model that CeBI has is that we would actually take something from a prototype stage and develop it to a minimum viable product. So that would actually take about a 2-year period. So certainly the engagement with the industrial partner is to be able to fund that stage. So that is the only way we can actually take it out. Now, in the case of the RIC project that I just mentioned about, they were willing to do that funding. And so the industrial partners' sort of commitment was not to help develop the product, but rather to actually help with the commercialization and take it into the market. So it was kind of easier for them in that regard. But generally, I think our business model is to engage a commercial partner who's willing to fund that initial maybe 1.5 to 2 year process, and then be able to take it to the market thereafter.
Okay. Another question, how would you advise to reduce the time from pilot to scaling up and then to the product manufacturing according to your experience?
Shalika, I think you might be able to answer
Yeah,
this.
it's basically one of the delays that we have realized that in the product development process is if the market requirement is to, and also if the conversion from the prototype into commercial or user trial based product, that conversion takes a long time if we don't understand the market industrial dynamics. So number one, if I had to just suggest the best practices, so there are best practices also. Something that we have experienced was work with the industry to understand the market first, number one. Number two is to use the consultancy that you have and also industrial collaboration to understand what the industry, how the industry operates, such as the way that the industrial process works and also what are their resource constraints. So those things will actually minimize the sort of delay, and it makes it faster for someone to convert the prototype into the industrial trials.
Dr. Gan, if I may add, I'll add a few things. Now, first of all, if the demand or the request comes from industry, I think then the force of pulling it out into the market is going to be shorter. Whereas in our case, we come up with the idea, we're trying to push it into the market, right? But if an industrial partner comes, obviously they're going to drive it in a different way. Second thing is, as much as possible, we need to rely on the resources of the industrial partner, for example, procurement. Right? If you are relying on a university system to provide that for us, because the university is really not built or developed with industrial processes or industrial sort of product development in mind. So therefore, we are going to waste a lot of time. We are going to, there will be lots of inefficiencies that are inherent to the existing system. So we do need to improve on that, and the best way to do that is actually to have the industry taking responsibility for that aspect. So so those are two things I feel that we could have improved, right?
Correct.
And but if the demand comes from them, then I think right from the beginning they're thinking of the market, they're thinking of the profit. So that is going to force us also to improve our design process and challenge us to keep innovating to meet that actual market requirement.
Thank you, Dr. Pujitha and Mr. Sharika. So there's another question with a comment as well. So this type of research are the future of Sri Lanka medical health sector, but the industry, government and the people do not understand the importance of the product. Also, the regulatory controls affect the quality of research badly and the effective manufacturing and use by the patients finally.
I'm sorry, what's the question? Because I missed it because there was a bit of a breakup in your voice.
Okay, so I'll repeat the question again, Dr. Pujitha. So it's with a comment as well. So this type of research are the future of Sri Lanka in terms of medical and health sector, but the industry, government and the people do not understand the importance of the product. Also, the regulatory controls affect the quality of research badly and then affect the manufacturing and also the finally using by the patients. So what are the solutions that can be proposed for this?
The simple answer I would say is actually why an entity like CeBI was developed was first of all because to meet that requirement. I think we as a multidisciplinary center, even actually if you look at what we presented today, we recognize that there are so many stakeholders that are really important. We can't do it from just having good engineering knowledge alone. Certainly, we need the medical practitioners, we need the business understanding, we need the manufacturing facilities. So a lot of us should be actually in constant dialogue, as well as the regulator. So in order for us to kind of move this, I think people, I wouldn't say people don't necessarily see the value. I think we see the value, but probably uh, I think we may not have thought of a long-term strategy, because buying and selling is a quick fix. It's easy. And I think we've become a bit lazy in not being able to put our our minds and really think about it in a kind of a practical, long-term sort of a visionary sort of a way. And as Mr. Indikadula said, we do have the capability of doing it. It's just that we haven't had the will, the strong will to guide it. And from a government side, certainly, we do need to have that, the political will or the government will to kind of move us into long-term strategies. So for example, giving us infrastructure, actually having a buyback sort of a guarantee that can actually come in, giving tax credits and incentives for industry who actually develop local things, like, even as Charlika said, even for procurement, even universities for research, we don't have any incentives. So when we work with overseas universities, we can see the contrast. You can see such a big difference in how long it takes for us to get something simple done. So that can actually drive people away from doing research here. So certainly those are things that we need to all sit down and look at and have a broader discussion on. But I would say the simple answer from our side is that we've established CeBI with the intention of making it a hub to bring all these people to have a exclusive focus in product development, but an inclusive culture in being able to bring everyone together.
Yes, and also I would add, build on that argument. Now you may have seen that Sri Lanka started production of saline just a few days ago. Saline is now produced. So as Mr. Indikadul clearly mentioned, it's actually easy to trade, easy to buy and sell, because you don't have to spend so much of thinking into production. But now the trend is actually there's a shape shifting in the markets where people think about reducing it. Sometimes, as I can see, the reason is there are higher profit margin for people who do production and manufacturing. And also the COVID situation has created restrictions for importing and trading. So people are trying to think whether the country is going into a production-based thing. So obviously there is a political leadership that needs to think about producing things in Sri Lanka. But I think the trend is now going into production and building up certain research base. You may have seen the number of ventilators that came into market. But the thing is, there have been a lot of research and innovation, but people don't know how to get something into the market because of the lack of understanding what the regulation needs, what are the profit margins, how the machine should work, these kind of things. Gradually, the things are improving. So I think the center and all technical consultants will have a responsibility in helping these people to bring up the devices in the right way into the markets.
Okay, so building on that question, I think the next question and the final question for today. So it is about if the industry want to work with CeBI, what the process and how the collaboration is going to be established. So Dr. Pujit, it's for you.
Okay, first of all, we welcome any expressions of interest or any suggestions as to how we can improve the current and existing sort of mechanism. So CeBI falls within the University of Moratuwa. So once a person has an interest, it could be a product development, it could be type development, it could be a consultancy where we are actually providing a is to actually, I mean, you can engage with us. We can develop that sort of MOU or the contract directly through the university, or we can actually get it through even the uni consultancy, which is a different arm. But there are different ways that we can actually do that depending on the requirement of the I would say the industry partner. Because if you want the university to back you up, so there's a certain way of doing it. But if you want just to get our services, and there are IP considerations as well. But I have to say that our spirit is wanting to support. And because otherwise we can get so caught up in the regulation and on the formality of it. But what I want to say is we are willing to talk, we're willing to work out different ways. Perhaps you may have better suggestions, right? But I think the atmosphere, the time is right for us to think of flexible ways and to be able to get. So I want to say Mr. Indikadula, working with him has been a good experience for us, because while the requirement came from us, he was willing to become very flexible and very efficient in the way he handled things. And as a result, there is a success story that is waiting to kind of go into the market. So certainly we want to have more of those success stories where it becomes a mutual process of learning, I would say. You know, we have a certain level of understanding, but the industry will have a different understanding. So even in our engagement, this is to foster a new way of doing it and not to be held back by traditional ways of thinking or traditional formalities. Certainly we can't be innovative if we look back to the box that is defining us. We just have to think outside and redefine what that box is going to be for the future generations as well. Right? So that's what I would say.
Yeah, certainly. So thank you, Dr. Pujita, and I would like to thank all the speakers who answered the questions and then share their thoughts with us. So that brings us to the end of our workshop.